What's going on, everyone? This is CPGM Juice of CouchPotatoGM.com. The college football playoff is a wrap. That marks the end of the college football season, assuming you don't subscribe to the Shrine Game and the Senior Bowl being the end of the college football season. We're still in the NFL playoffs, but certainly now's as good as any time to get started and start speculating with respect to the NFL draft. And for my way too early mock draft, I want to go ahead and take a look at the top 10 potential picks in the 2018 NFL draft. Just a note here, picks 9 and 10 are subject to coin flip. You got the Oakland Raiders and San Francisco 49ers, so they could be swapping places at 9 or 10. But let's start at the top of the draft with the Cleveland Browns. And there's already been quite a bit of news out of Cleveland. Again, Cleveland went ahead and they did the 0-4. They went 0-16. Somehow Hugh Jackson has finessed and politicked his way to a third year in Cleveland. But there is a new GM in Cleveland, and John Dorsey, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been in the front office of Seattle and Green Bay as well. I think he puts his stamp on this team by selecting a quarterback, even if he elects to bring in a veteran like Alex Smith, whom he has experience with. I think they opt for Sam Darnold, the quarterback out of USC. There's some ties there in terms of Hugh Jackson having been the offensive coordinator there. Josh Rosen of UCLA has already indicated that he doesn't want to play for Cleveland. I think Cleveland just avoids that altogether, and they opt for the upside associated with Darnold. Darnold's a big kid, inexperienced, but certainly has all the physical tools that you look for. There's some concerns in terms of his protecting the football, turnovers, decision making, certainly. But I think if the Browns are in a position to be able to bridge the gap with an Alex Smith to Sam Darnold, I think they'll jump at that opportunity. The second overall pick is owned by the New York Giants. And I also think that they're in the market for a quarterback. I think this is actually where Josh Rosen of UCLA ends up. I think Rosen, at this point, he's proven to be the most polished of the quarterbacks. I see the anticipation. I see the ball placement. Again, his tape is a little uneven, not unlike Darnold, but there's more polish there. He appears to be more comfortable in the 5-7 step drop. Less of the fire drill. Although he can kind of create, I don't think he gets enough credit for that. He can create, extend plays. But he's more of a traditional pocket passer, and I have an affinity personally for that type of quarterback. There are some concerns about his personality and temperament, but I think the new GM, Dave Gettleman, and whoever the coach ends up being in New York, ultimately working through him in terms of the interview process, individual workouts, they opt for Rosen. I don't expect him to start immediately. I think Eli Manning will be the start at the beginning of the 2018 season, and hopefully he serves kind of as that bridge to Rosen for 2019. The number 3 overall pick is owned by the Indianapolis Colts, and the Colts have a lot of issues. Certainly, you can point to Andrew Luck and his health issues and the struggles that they've had in terms of keeping him upright. I like Quentin Nelson a lot. It's uncommon for an offensive guard to go this early. You can certainly make a case for maybe Mike McGlinchey, but I think even on the other side of the ball, in the trenches, the Indianapolis Colts would be best served in selecting Bradley Chubb. I think that's actually where they go. Chubb is the best pass rusher in this particular class. I don't know that he's going to necessarily blow away the evaluators at the combine in terms of the measurables, but when I watch the film on him and you see the hand placement and the motor and the technique and the leverage that he uses, he's a tactician. And when you have that kind of relentless pursuit in terms of getting after the quarterback, he holds up really well against the runners as well. I think he's set himself apart. I think the Colts jump on him at number 3. Number 4 is the second of 2 first-round picks for the Cleveland Browns. This one comes via the Deshaun Watson trade. And there's a number of ways that the Browns may go with this particular pick. I know a lot of people think Saquon Barkley will be the selection here. That's certainly within the realm of possibility. But again, John Dorsey, his background, I can't imagine him selecting a running back first round, and certainly not this high. So I think ultimately they go with Notre Dame's offensive tackle Mike McGlinchey to replace Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas suffered a season-ending injury. I think his time in Cleveland is probably done. If he continues playing, I'm sure he's looking for someplace where he can win immediately. He can go to a more competitive team. At number 5, we have Josh Allen. Going to the Denver Broncos. I'm not a fan of this pick. Again, these are not necessarily picks that I would make. Certainly not this one, but Denver's in need of a quarterback. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if they go with Kirk Cousins. But in the event they don't get Kirk Cousins, maybe they get outbid. They don't necessarily land Alex Smith. I believe Josh Allen kind of fits the profile that John Elway is interested in. That's really big, toolsy quarterback, a lot of physical attributes. I just think his accuracy is a huge concern, decision making at times. I mean, obviously, a A lot of people will argue that he just didn't have the talent around him. I'm sure someone's brass, someone's front office will make the same claim. I see a lot of, the same concerns I had with Paxton Lynch I see in Josh Allen, but I think he kind of fits what John Elway is looking for, right or wrong. He's the kind of player that profiles for John Elway, at least from my perspective. So Josh Allen comes off the board, and he makes enough plays. There's some flashes there that I think teams will obviously gravitate towards. At number 6, the New York Jets. They are also in the market for a quarterback. I think they could either go Baker Mayfield here or Lamar Jackson. In my early evaluation of the quarterbacks, and certainly I have a lot more evaluating to do. Right now, I have Josh Rosen and Lamar Jackson 1 and 2. It wouldn't surprise me if they went with Lamar Jackson here, the New York Jets, but I think they ultimately go with Baker Mayfield. I think he wins the press conference with that larger-than-life personality, 2017 Heisman Trophy winner. He can certainly make all the throws, but he's got to harness his emotions, and he has a little bit of an unorthodox style. Not a full Sandlot improvisational type of approach, but certainly needs to be a little bit more precise in terms of operating within the confines of the offense. But certainly he has all the talent. The big question is going to be, hand size and height. That could ultimately determine whether or not he's a top 10 pick or not. At number 7, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock, and Saquon Barkley, I think he falls to the Bucs at this point. The Bucs could really improve their pass protection, certainly their pass rush. It was anemic this year, but I think just given the names on the board at this point and the talent that is Saquon Barkley, I think Doug Martin is for all intents and purposes done in Tampa Bay. Barkley adds a completely new dimension to the Bucs offense, one that they probably haven't had. Barkley certainly takes some pressure off of Jameis Winston, helps out a defense that struggled to get off the field. But the pick there is the running back out of Penn State. At number 8, the Chicago Bears. I mean, the news just came down recently that the Bears hired former offensive coordinator of Kansas City Chiefs, Bill Nagy. I think it's a good fit in terms of what type of offense he'll bring to the table for Mitchell Trubisky. It'll be more like what he had in terms of at UNC, more spread concepts. I think that's what's necessary for Trubisky to be successful. I don't know ultimately if long term he can reach the heights and expectations that you expect from the second overall pick playing in an offense like that. I think there's limitations to playing in an offense like that, but certainly he'll be in a position that plays to his strengths a little bit more. The Bears desperately need weapons, particularly on the perimeter. Receiver is a huge need here, but Kyle Fuller and Prince Amukamara set to become unrestricted free agents. I don't know that the Bears can afford to pass up Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think he's probably the best defensive back in this class. Now, there's going to be an argument whether or not he's a cornerback or a safety. I think he can play either position. Adrian Amos and Eddie Jackson seem to have the safety positions locked down in Chicago, so I think Minkah comes in at number 8 to the Bears. At number 9, the San Francisco 49ers, obviously, they're ecstatic about being able to land Jimmy Garoppolo. He's acquitted himself really well, but they certainly need to continue to improve around him. Year 2 with Kyle Shanahan manning the controls as head coach. I think they go with Quentin Nelson, the guard out of Notre Dame. Nelson is probably my favorite player thus far in terms of my evaluation. Really technically sound. I don't see any weaknesses in his game. I have to spend a little bit more time with the film. It's really early in the whole process, but he jumps out at me. And when you talk about the plug and play type of offensive lineman, he fits the bill. I think he has an incredibly high floor and an immense ceiling. So I don't think San Francisco wastes any time rushing the card up and selecting Quentin Nelson if he's available at 9 or 10. Again, the San Francisco 49ers and the Oakland Raiders, their picks are subject to a coin flip. And at number 10 or 9, rounding out the top 10 of my way too early mock draft, is the Oakland Raiders. And I think the Raiders, they go with Roquan Smith. If you watch the National Championship game, you saw him in the Rose Bowl. You've seen him all year. The 2017 Butkus Award winner was phenomenal. Sideline to sideline, he is the modern day linebacker. A little bit smaller, but certainly has all the athleticism to come downhill, to play sideline to sideline. Doesn't have to come off the field on third down. Certainly a playmaker. He finds the football. I'm not convinced that the Raiders move on from Navarro Bowman. John Gruden, who's ultimately going to be the head coach, he should be announced here shortly as the head coach of the, officially announced, I should say, of the Oakland Raiders. John has he's been very partial to veteran players, and Navarro Bowman, I don't believe he's under contract, but certainly that he could work out a deal with Bowman, and Roquan Smith kind of comes in maybe as a weak side linebacker initially, and then ultimately replaces Bowman in the middle. That's going to do it for my way too early top 10 mock draft. See the entire post at couchpotatogm.com under the features section. Do us a favor, man. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click that bell so you get all of our notifications. There's going to be a ton of NFL draft content coming out in the coming months, coming weeks, coming days. So stay tuned for all of that information as we work towards the Senior Bowl.